Facebook Live. Let's see if we can do Facebook Live.
Now, is there any other questions that you wanted me to add in there for people like prospective sellers?
Sorry.
Or is there any other questions you wanted me to add to my list?
Uh,
I tried to keep them pretty high level, you know.
yeah, I reckon it's pretty good. This would at least last us for an hour, at least these questions.
Yeah.
Just open up the questions so I can put them in my front here. Okay. I'll start with you first.
Sure.
Alrighty. We'll do a bit of an introduction first. All right, beautiful. We are live on YouTube as
Facebook Live.
well.
Let's see if we can do Facebook Live.
Beautiful. Perfecto. Easy. Alrighty. Kick started.
Now, is there any other questions that you wanted me to add in there for
What's going on?
like prospective sellers?
Not all good. Let's
Sorry?
go for it.
Is there any other questions you want me?
Let's go. Perfect. All right, beautiful. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Jazz TV Show. And we are here live and we are recording, just making sure everything's all good. Yep, it's recording. And we've got Ian Shee from our very own EYS Auctions. Ian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jazz. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
You're more than welcome, man. You're more than welcome. You are one of the greatest auctioneers in the country that we always look up to. Tell us a little bit more about who's Ian and what do you do for a living and who you are. Tell us everything about yourself.
Oh man, I don't want, maybe not everything. No, but my name's Ian. I'm 28 years old. I'm an auctioneer with EYS Auctions. Been with EYS Auctions for about 3 years now, so it's been really good. They are the best auctioneers in all of Victoria, so it's been a pleasure just working alongside these guys. You know, if you want to be the best, you got to hang around with the best, and these guys just bring you up to a whole new level.
Exactly.
So it's been a pleasure, you know, work hard at my craft. And, you know, it's something that I'm really passionate about, bringing the energy through on auction day, high stakes negotiation, all those kinds of things. It just really resonates with me. So auctioneering is, you know, perfect job for me, I'd say.
Exactly. And man, at age of 28, you've marked a lot of you've hit a lot of goals, and that's quite evident from your YouTube channel. If someone wants to watch it, they can go and search you, Ian Shee Auctioneer, and watch your action, you in action, I should say. And tell me a little bit more about the question that a lot of people would ask, and a lot of people do ask, is who's an auctioneer? What is an auctioneer? What does an auctioneer do? Some people think you just turn up at the property on the day and then start calling the auction, collect the bids, and off you go. But that's far from the truth. So
that's
let's
exactly right. Yeah, and I thought that when I was getting into it as well, but I quickly realized, you know, just calling the bids isn't enough to be the best. So when you're, you know, an auctioneer does a lot, and it starts even before auction day as well. So I guess that common misconception that the auctioneer just rocks up, that's not quite the case. And if your auctioneer is doing that, I suggest that you find a new auctioneer, because they need to be involved very early on in the auction process. As soon as you list for auction, the auctioneer gets involved in terms of strategizing, keeping up to date with how things are going, and, you know, acting as an advisor, coming in to give a second perspective. And particularly as an independent, I get to come in from a perspective of, you know, what can we do today to get you the best result on auction day? Because it's, you know, if you're re-strategizing on auction day and coming up with new plans, you know, on the day, it's not going to go well. So you need to think really far and ahead. And, you know, everything from day one, as you'd know, Jazz, is as soon as the listing goes up for auction, everything matters. It's a fast-paced process, very quick marketing campaign to generate a lot of buzz. So everything that you do in that 4 weeks, it's turbocharged, and you need to get it right. So getting involved early means that everything goes right on auction day. Everything's thought out. all the scenarios are thought out in advance and discussed, so that on auction day, it's generally actually pretty easy going because we've discussed all the strategies and we're ready for it.
And I think, as you said, it has to be turbocharged, which means there's no room of making mistakes on the pricing that you go up with, or perhaps the presentation side of it. You don't have much time to sort of just go in the market and see how things work out. Like you can go, private sale does provide that flexibility, but again, at the same time, what we say is you ideally need to make sure that you pre-plan everything and you actually on the race field. You can't just say, I'll check my car tires when you're actually doing the racing at the moment.
That's right. You've got to commit full on. You have to jump in with both feet and be committed to the process, because once you get on, you can't really stop. Otherwise, you lose momentum. Your listing falls off in terms of popularity. You don't get the interest that you want, and it becomes a very slow process because new things come up all the time. So
Exactly. You
buyers
gotta connect
move on.
buyers and keep them connected for that 4 weeks period, and strong reason for them to be able to either the property has to be in demand or everyone wants it, irrespective of the price, or your pricing needs to be spot on. Would you agree?
That's exactly right. And that's why the auctioneer gets involved throughout the whole entire campaign. If those things aren't going right, there's not much you can do on auction day as an auctioneer. So
Exactly.
that's why we get involved early on, because if there's no bidders, there's no interest,
Correct.
and it doesn't matter how good your auctioneer is, we're not going to be able to draw out bids.
Exactly. And tell me more. What is an internal auctioneer and what is an external auctioneer?
Yeah, this is a common one, and talking to a lot of people, friends, families, colleagues, it's quite common for people to think, oh, look, I thought the auctioneer just worked with the company that I go with, and you just get what you're given, and that's certainly the case. Like there are good things about having an internal auctioneer, and that's in the sense that they're a very well-oiled machine. Everybody's internal. They can discuss their strategies and really keep things moving along between the agent and the auctioneer. But at the end of the day, they all work for one company. So
Correct.
you're not getting any additional advice. You're just getting the same agent duplicated,
Exactly.
And oftentimes these guys that work for the office, they're their own selling agent. They've got their own listings. They are, going out doing listing presentations, running their own open homes. So they're not there with you full time. They're also not honing their craft like
Yeah.
an independent auctioneer who spends all their time really just thinking about how can I create that energy, a little bit more buzz? What can I do in this particular part? What should I do when this person does that and that person doesn't do that? So an independent auctioneer coming in, we are solely focused on the auction process,
Exactly.
everything involved, and giving you an independent view, right? I'm not attached to the sales process, so I don't get commission if it sells. I'm there to give you as the seller advice
Yes.
on what's gonna do the best for your auction. I try to make that a very clear distinction in my conversations. Is
Also, what's happening around as well.
That's right. So I do auctions all over Melbourne. So in one particular area, you might be feeling the pinch, or the auction's slowing down, or it's not doing as well, and other areas in Melbourne are the same. Or your particular auction is quite slow. We're not seeing many inspections, whereas the rest of Melbourne is still doing quite well. So, how are we doing do we need to change our strategy in our marketing campaign? What do we need to do? I get to come in from that outside perspective and
Yes.
just let you know, as it is, straight up, what you should be doing to get the best for
Exactly.
your auction.
100%. 100%. And I guess that the next question that came in was from Alan. And Alan has said, what is the biggest tool to get the sale on the auction day for a seller and for you as an auctioneer? What is the best tool? In my opinion, it's fear. When you control the fear of missing out, and when you create that in the marketplace, for the interested buyers. I guess that for me, that's the biggest tool, Ellen. But let's hear what Ian has to say about it.
That's right, Ellen. That's a really good question because there is a lot of strategy involved in auctions. Now, to simplify this, and this is something that I brief every seller on before their auction day, and we have a strategy set meeting with all of the information from all of your open homes on how to get the best price on auction day. As an auctioneer, there's lots of tools available. You want to create a lot of energy, create a lot of buzz so that you can show all the demand, all the good features about the home. As a seller, you have a very powerful tool of using that fear by dictating where the price, the on the market price is. And that is a big determining factor, because how the auction process works is up until a certain point, the auctioneer is totally in control, because I can place vendor bids to make sure that the auction gets to a certain price. Now, that price is strategic as well. We don't want to bring it too high that nobody wants to bid anymore and no more buyers are interested. But I can guarantee it to a certain price. And once we get to that price, there's a bit of a gap, and that's when the auction starts to slow down. Now, in that gap between, when the auction starts to slow down and potentially what price that you're ideally wanting to achieve, there's usually that gap in the marketplace. And so within that point in time, you've got the control there as the seller, and you can choose to put the property on the market anywhere in that point in time. Now, of course, you have to take your own personal and financial position into consideration.
Correct.
But once the property's on the market, you will get the best price for your property. There's no doubt about it. The FOMO kicks in, the emotional decision making kicks in. People just bid because they know that there's no second chances.
Exactly.
So to pull that trigger at any point in time, you will reignite the auction. It gives me as the auctioneer a lot more tools in my arsenal to drag out the auction, put all the stakes, make all the stakes very clear for the buyer, and give them more things to think about, to bid one more time and one more time and again and again and again until you get to that price that you ideally want and beyond.
Exactly. And I clearly say to everyone, say for an example, if you get to a point where that's why I always say to vendors, especially in the current market, have 3 reserves in mind. Don't fixate yourself to one reserve price that you want to achieve, because you could potentially get there or more if you are really reading the play of the market. If the bidding reaches at a certain level, let's say if that's where your 3 reserves are. Either the market is just here, or the market is just here, or just here. You can then pull the plug and say, let's put it in the market. And when the fear of missing out kicks in, there's an opportunity for you to get a lot more higher or beyond, versus that you decide to have your reserve there and the market's here. And that's where the feedback has been already, where there's some relevance, and you decide to pass it in the current climate, especially in the current market at the moment, which is still great. If you're running the processes correctly, then you've lost the opportunity to bring the buyers up to this level under the competition, because you'll be negotiating with this buyer. They may meet you at the bottom of what we call a bronze reserve or a silver reserve. You may not hit the gold or beyond. That's where people would have to understand, where you have to sort of call the property the market and have a balance there. Great question by Ellen. I guess
that's exactly right. And don't get me wrong, by the way, there are circumstances where I'm not going to recommend you do that. So it's not always the case that you have to put the property in the market. And I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not here to sell your house. I'm here to get you the best value for your auction. So when I see that that's not the case, I'm not going to be recommending that strategy. That is the best strategy if we've got lots of competition. But there will be circumstances where I actually may recommend to you to pass the property in and negotiate.
Correct. Exactly. especially there's a lot of things that go in the background where you have another buyer who would pay more with
That's
subjective
right.
conditions, for example.
Yeah,
Then pass it in and then negotiate with the highest bidder. Get an offer in writing is critical. Post auction, what I normally hear from a lot of sellers when they sell a property and they call us, they're getting the property sold with another agency, and we get a phone call saying, "Hey, Jazz, we got the property passed in. This was the highest reserve we received." And the next question I always ask is, did you ask for a written offer from that buyer? Did you get a written offer? Because what's critical is post auction, you have a written offer that you can actually start negotiating on,
that's
versus
right.
just letting the buyer go after listening to a number. Keep negotiating, but because the real game starts after you pass in.
That's right. And you know, Jazz, better than anybody else, once that passing negotiation, fizzles out and they walk away, oftentimes you won't actually be in touch with that buyer again. So it's really important to be decisive on the day.
Correct. Exactly. The window I would say is from the auction to 24 hours
Yep.
to put a deal together potentially after the property has been passed in. All right, let's jump on to the next question, keeping the
Good
time
question,
in
Ellen.
mind. Yeah, that's definitely something to talk about. Now, when someone has made a decision to sell their property, when they should engage an auctioneer or a real estate agent?
That's a good question. I think that's more one for you, isn't it, Jazz?
That's correct, yes. So now the answer to that question is most of the clients right now I'm working with at the moment, they're about to sell their properties. The timeline is the next 2 to 3 months. And we've got those listings in our books right now. And they're not coming on the market for the next 2 to 3 months because part of our 21-step price maximization strategy is that we want to make sure, just like your Formula One car racing, you want to make sure that your car that you're going to use, which is your house in this case, is all set, tires are pumped, engine oil is checked, everything is good. Your crew members, your what they call pit crew, is highly skilled, they're fast enough, they get things done. In cases of the properties, I'll say, generally speaking, there's no right or wrong answer to that. But again, planning the sale in advance is always helpful for a lot of sellers. Ideally, making sure that you get in touch with your real estate agent, understand if your home needs any improvement, because the agents would be able to compare your home with what's recently sold for a higher sale price and what was the point of difference in the home. Is there a possibility to replicate that sort of an outcome by either adding value to the property, timing, deciding what's available in the market at that point, whether it's better to go to the market now or whether to wait for a month or 2 or 3 months, depending on the scenarios, and start speaking to the buyers. In some cases, what we also do is we've got a listing that came in about 2 weeks before. The plan is to run some off-market buyers there, number one, and get a feedback from them, the ones who are actively looking and the ones who will make a decision like today to buy a property. And they've been in the market. So qualification is they should be in the market for over 3 months. They should have made multiple offers on properties, either have missed out or haven't found a property that suits their needs, and match those buyers and take them through and get some other offers or feedback first before you launch the listing on the market. Before the listing is launched in the market with an incorrect price, the pricing is not on point, then your process will probably drag on for longer. Then either you have to do two things. You have to either put it back on auction, or perhaps you have to reprice the property, which not saying it's a wrong strategy, but again, at the same time, it's not the best of the strategies I would recommend anyone. The best point is the moment it goes in the market, correct pricing on point, you'll have competition. We are blessed to be in a market where there's plenty of buyers looking at the moment.
Yep. And we were talking about this the other day as well, getting the pricing right, because it's not only important for the auction process and getting buyers interested, but we also found in the data, because we we're talking about the data, we're really interested in how buyers behave and how we can maximize that for people looking to sell. And we found that the first 2 weeks is when you get the most amount of interest in a new listing. And so as that starts to fall, it's almost too late to change the pricing to get
Correct.
more competitive with the market. So if you want to test things out at the start of your listing, you're wasting those really important first 2 weeks where the demand is up here and the
Correct.
amount of new interest and eyeballs on your listing is up here. And
Mm,
then once you start to get competitive, you're not getting many people re-clicking on your listing
on your
anymore.
listing, exactly. Or it just gets hard to get the buyers back with the same perception.
That's right. So
I-
they've seen it, they've gone through it, they've moved on to bigger and better things.
Because as we have to understand, the buyer psychology is not a buyer psychology, it's actually human psychology.
That's right.
We humans get excited by seeing something which is fresh, new, and our brains are functioning in a way that I've seen this one before versus, oh wow, priced well, new listing. Let's go and see if it sells beforehand. Let's just go and jump in and make an offer, or let's just register for an auction or get the due diligence done before.
Yep, that's right. And I
Now,
can just imagine as if I was buying and I get a call from a real estate agent saying, hey, you came and inspected this home. Guess what? The vendors lowered the price. I'm not thinking, well, great. I'm thinking, geez, this guy's,
mm,
I could potentially get a bargain here because this
yeah,
guy's coming down and down and down. And he's not getting much interest. So
exactly.
it doesn't
Uh,
even come across the same way either, does it?
I'll give an example. I was researching, and this is what I do as an exercise sometimes, just to sort of get the perspective as well. I was researching for the cars. I'm always on car sales as well. Not because I'm buying cars all the time, mind you. I'm simply understanding how the dynamics of a buyer would work as well.
Uh-huh.
It's a really good perspective. Number one, I would attend different dealerships to see the point
Yeah.
of difference in their customer service. That's what we are all about as well, the customer service. And I see what we would be doing, how would we greeting and meeting the people at the open homes, for an example, and what we should not be doing as well. Number two, classic example. I made an inquiry on a Tesla recently,
Mm.
and I asked a question. Again, I was acting as a hard buyer. He called me up, I didn't answer. Text him back. I said, I'm super busy. I just need to know what's the lowest you'll do on this car.
Mm.
We get these days as well.
Mm.
It's how you then get the person on the phone and start negotiating and try to understand what exactly they're expecting out of this process. Super important as a negotiator.
Mm.
Person
Mm-hmm.
comes back to me on the text message saying, we've already dropped the price from 63,000 to 55,000.
Mm.
Straight away in my mind, I said, well, you may have priced it at 70 grand. Doesn't really matter that I'll pay 70 grand.
Yep.
Where you drop doesn't mean I'll see value. Now, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, did they drop the price because they've now realized the price was too high?
Yep. Well,
Or
it's
they
not
were
worth
asking
that
for more?
much.
Are they still asking for more?
Yep.
Maybe. And my answer to that question was, you may have dropped it down, but doesn't mean that I would see value in the current price as well. And
That's right.
I threw in an offer another 8 grand under,
Uh,
right? I left it there. He said, nah, not going to happen. No chance in the world. Got a phone call this morning from the person saying, can you come up another 2 grand?
yeah.
Right? So you have to know what you say, when you say, when not to say, and when to say.
That's right.
These are very important things.
And I think it's interesting because you can give the same example on the buyer's side of things as well.
Mm,
And I had a friend come ask me how he should make an offer on a home and what he should do. Should he lowball? Should he creep his way up? And this is the same thing. If you lowball and then you get your offer rejected, you call the agent again, you say, I'm going to come up 50 grand. The agent
mm,
says, no, I'm going to come up 20 grand. The agent says, no. You're not thinking, oh, maybe this guy, like this is a really serious buy. You're thinking, this guy is lying to me. He's got much more to offer and he
mm,
can keep going up and up and up. So on the other end, if you just give your max,
mm,
right? If you offer your absolute max, even if it's still a low ball, if
mm,
you offer your absolute max and just say, no, that's it. This is the best that I can give you. Agent pushes you another 20 grand. Nah, I've seriously maxed out. I'm at the top of my budget. I'm done. I'm seriously maxed out. Can't do any more. What about another 10? Nah, can't do it. The agent's not thinking, hey, like, I'm sure he's got a little bit more. You're thinking, I've gotten the best deal out of this buyer that I can possibly get to my vendor. Let me communicate that back and see if we can get some leeway from the other side of things.
Exactly.
And that's a counterexample.
Yeah, one thing I'll add, as in our negotiation trainings, what we also say is that your best chance to negotiate is before you go to your vendor. As an agent, I always recommend to the agents that you got to be in a position to understand human psychology, and a few great questions to ask a purchaser. Let's say Ian's given me an offer, and Ian says, that's my best. The question I should be asking Ian would be, Ian, do you mind me asking, how did you work this number out?
That's exactly right.
How did you come up with this number? Let's say
That's
you
a
offered
great
me
question.
820. I said, why did you work at 820? Why not 810? Don't be fearful of saying less number. Why not 810? Why not 825? Why not 830? How did you work at 820? Because if I go to my vendor, they'll ask me a question, how come the buyer worked this number out?
Yep.
Is there a recent sale? Can you substantiate a claim by providing a recent sale example? Or how are you working this number out? And just shut up and just listen. And sometimes people would not have an answer that makes them feel, oh, well, that's actually true. The other property that I've seen was sold for 840. And when you know, and then you got to ask a question, Ian, how do you expect me to go back and get the vendor convinced at 820? Just tell me how would you like me to do it? You tell me, how do you want me to do it?
That's right. Written offer, signed, unconditional.
Okay. Once that comes in, after that, before you again go to your vendor, Ian, thank you so much for making a written offer. One thing I would really want to ask, because most of the time the purchasers miss out and say, Jazz, I would have, should have, could have paid another 20, 30. Not that I can obviously disclose, and same respect goes to your offer. But if I have another offer on the table right now, or maybe another half an hour, which is more than your offer, do you want me to give you a call or sell without letting you know?
Those are great questions.
Right? When you know the buyer saying, yep, ready to miss out, no problems at all, you then again leave that conversation for half an hour, then give a call back again and ask the same question one more time. I'm about to do it now. I'm about to go to the vendor, and I can see you're not too far, but you're not too close. Are you sure you're happy to miss out? And why are you buying this home? Is a great question as well. I mean, that's taking us to negotiation conversations, but let's go back.
That's it. And these are all, man, these are all the things that you probably underestimate your real estate agent and how powerful they are, because, you know, I've seen on the news there's an AI negotiator and, you know, brand new app that will sell your house for you. You open your own home. But these are the things that you really underestimate in terms of what you get when you approach a professional.
I mean, at the end of the day, if your professional is a person just wearing a suit and the tagline says real estate agent, we all look the same and we talk similar, but how we operate and how we operate from here is a point of difference.
And I think this is a really good segue into a question that we've got from Farouk. All right. How do you find the right agent, and what questions should you be asking an agent when you're interviewing them? I think that one's for you.
Yeah, cool. All right. So how do you find the right agent? Number one thing is go with someone who you actually feel connected with, someone you can actually work with, someone you like and trust. Number one. There's no point having an agent who says, I'm the number one in the area, and you kind of feel, I don't know this person, but appears to be fine, appears to be right, because people are making decisions. And then when you get to know the person with the process, you kind of then start feeling, okay, well, this person's ethics or this person's way of working is not aligning with how I expect things to go. I guess asking really open questions at the appointments. Attending open homes is very important. If you are looking at selling, go to the open homes. Throw some inquiries online.
Mhm.
See how quickly the agent comes back. Do they reply back just via email, or do they pick up the phone and attempt calling you? Do they have another system in place where they've got a separate team of buyer agents in the office who would actually just keep calling you until you say, stop calling me, right?
Mm.
And then thereafter, understanding how they present the open home. Because remember, I do this exercise on some Saturdays. I actually go and attend open homes in my area and see,
Mm.
are we dropping ball? Are we lacking? Do we need
Mhm.
improvement, or do we need to add or change anything? Our open homes need to be presented really well. The house, not just when we say open homes, people sometimes think how the kitchen bench is set up. Brochures do not represent a good open home
Mm.
or glossy paper on the kitchen bench. It
Mhm.
is the overall appeal of the property, gardens, nature strips done up, agents presented well, turning up on time,
Mhm.
opening up the doors and blinds, making sure the lights are on, making sure the house smells good, making sure it's clean, vacuumed, mopped, houses are presented well. You've got some water, some lollies, for an example, and
Mhm.
some fear of missing out strategies in play, which is obviously a different conversation. That's one way to understand how you sort of feel that you would like your agent to represent yourself in your home. Number one. Number two is when you speak to have a chat with the agent at the open home.
Mm.
Understand how they're interacting. Are they bubbly? Are they friendly? Are they extrovert or
Mhm.
introvert? Does it align with your personality? And do you feel that, yes, if you're working with this agent, the agent representing you, this person will do the right thing? Try to lowball the offers straight at the open home and see how they respond.
Mm.
And what's the process of making an offer? For an example, are they taking verbal offers? Are they taking written offer? Are they doing any
Mm.
qualifications of the buyer? That's one of the ways to do it. The second way is when you sit down with your agent, have some questions for them.
Mm.
How do they see what value they see in the home? If the agent is a buyer, how much would they pay for the property is a really good question to ask.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Because at the end of the day, when I see vendors, they always say, Jazz, I want this price for my home. I always ask them a question to them as well. How did you work this number out?
Mhm.
You want $1 million, that's fine. Look, at the end of the day, if the property is worth 900 and you want million, you never know, you might get it. But again, at the same time, we need to understand how we can get there.
Yep,
Knowing
absolutely.
where the comparables are. I'm not the agent who would say one sold for X price, second sold for 900, 920. Yours would not get $1 million. But again, at the same time, it's not the promise of the price. It's the
Mm.
promise of the process, which has gotten my clients getting an extra 20%, 30%, sometimes 10%, 100 grand, 50 grand, 80 grand above the approximate market value.
That's
Ask
a
a
very
question
important
as a
point, I think.
buyer, Mr. Agent or Miss Agent, how much would you pay for my home today? Remember, the agent sees more homes than anyone else in the marketplace,
Mhm.
apart from the buyers, of course. But
I think we may have some tech issues here. Jazz, I'm not sure if this is you or me.
understanding how they'll get to a certain point to get an outcome. That's one of the best methods you can always ask. And
That's
then
great.
understanding the overall process is critical.
That's
What
it.
is the process that you're going to use? Not just method of sale, process.
Mm.
What is the
Process.
process?
That's a huge one as well. And I think that's, if I was to summarize everything you just
Hmm.
mentioned, you can kind of hear in your answer that it's not actually listening to what the agents have to say. It's understanding how they work and seeing that in person. So
Exactly.
seeing how the agent interacts, seeing how they have a process. Does it run well? How quickly can they get to people? How quickly can they respond?
Yes.
And that process and system behind things, you need to match that up with what they're saying in their listing presentation. So you need to have all of that information researched before you even start to talk to these agents, because you want to know, are they telling you the truth
Yes.
about their process? Because everything that you just said is not about hearing the agent's response, because they've practiced that 100 times in their listing presentations. It's about seeing how they operate in person,
Correct.
how they interact with each individual person.
Yeah.
And that's how you pick out your agent.
Buyer callback strategy is critical for an agent. When do they do their callbacks? Is it Saturday afternoon after the auction? Do they really just randomly call all the buyers on Saturday, or they know who to call on Saturday, who not to call on Saturday?
That's right. What questions are
Sometimes
they
you have to
asking?
wait up until Monday. You don't want to call a particular buyer on Saturday itself because you may sound desperate as well. So all these things, understanding the agent's ability to read the play. Sometimes it's like selling a home is sometimes playing chess.
Mm,
You have to calculate your moves.
that's right.
It's very critical.
You have to be one step ahead. It's the same with auctions. When you're calling an auction and I say, hey, I'm
Mm.
taking a smaller increment just to get you back in, I will actually pre-position. I'm not going any smaller. I know you want to offer me, I just took a 10. I know you're going to try to offer me a 5. I'm not accepting 5s.
Correct.
I will take a 10. I understand you might want to give me a smaller increment. We're not doing that yet.
We're
And
not
so
doing that yet.
even though I'm jumping down, I'm doing it very purposely. And I know the next person might offer me a 5. I'm telling them before they even try to offer. Not taking 5s yet, sir.
Correct.
10.
Exactly.
You got to be one step ahead of the competition. And that's the difference. These are some of the small details in your auctioneer that can make a difference as well.
AJ Powell asks, how should a buyer, I'm a buyer, and how should you recommend, or how was the question? How would you recommend me be prepared in the current market for the auctions? That's
Great question. You got to be realistic. It's a tough auction market at the moment, but you'll see in the stats there are still auctions selling and selling well. And this is where you've got to be realistic.
Exactly.
Like Jazz says, he's going to ask you how you came up with your figures. He's going to ask buyers how you came up with your figures. And so I will come in as well, and I will also ask you how you came up with those figures and what is realistic, what you should expect on auction day. So if you're surprised by those things, then it's a reality check, but it also means that you're a little bit late, and you're going to still, even though I'm telling you a couple of days beforehand, you're still going to have to make a tough decision. But what I could recommend you doing, and I think this is something that I use prepping for all of my auctions as well. Go on to realestate.com and see what things are selling for. Compare them very, very objectively with your home. Same land size, same layout, this and that. Not my house is better because I've lived in there, my kids love it and things like that. Objectively, what do people want? And go on to, so realestate.com is a great one to look at what things are actually selling for. If you can't see the price, go ask Jazz. Jazz will give you all the sale results as well. All right. If you want to find a house, particular house, what did that one sell for? What did that one sell for? Go to Jazz. Go to CoreLogic data. You can type in your postcode and see everything that's sold in the last 30 days. Which agency, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. Find all of the same bedrooms and bathrooms. Take them all into a spreadsheet. Look at those numbers, because if you're 50, 100 grand above that, all of the sale results, no chance. If you've got sale results above what your agent's telling you, have a look at the other properties and see why. They're probably better renovated, better located. A whole lot of other things that you might not know about, solar panels, water tanks, heating, security systems, all of these small things make a difference. They might even be, the difference between tenanted and selling empty when it's well staged and, very well kept. All of those things make a big difference. So if you can come at it with a scientific method, be very objective, look at the sales data. And I'm telling you where you can get these sales data from, because I look at it before I come into your vendor meeting and tell you what you should expect to happen on auction day. And keep in mind, those prices that you see on that list is not where they set their reserve price. That is where it got to after they put the property on the market. And so I'm going to be coming in and telling you, yeah, 950 sold for, but they probably put it on the market anywhere between 850 to 900, 920. so
Correct.
that you can get one more bid, one more bid, one more bid. And so that's being realistic of what you have to
Exactly.
do and what you have to be prepared to do as a seller.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a great answer, Ian. That's a
And
great
I'm
answer.
not telling you what it should be. I'm telling you how to find the answer for yourself, because
Correct.
once you see it for yourself, don't take what I say,
Yeah,
100%. Take it with a grain of
exactly.
salt, but look at it, the stats for yourself.
Look, whenever I sell any of my family home, whenever I've done it, I always go back and say, okay, well, now I need to start thinking. I could potentially sort of say, and I've sold a lot of real estate agents' properties, and I've sold real estate agents' properties where they think we are magicians. We do pretty well when we have run the processes correctly. But if you say, I want this, but it's to me, sometimes it sounds like a child in the shopping center wants something, but the parents know it's not right
Mm,
in terms of launching the property at that price point, for an example. I've always looked at the numbers and the data. And whenever I've priced a property and sell my home, I've always achieved above asking. Always.
mm.
It's just that I priced the property in very, very good manner every time.
And we're going to take it back to what you were saying before as well. You run a very tight ship with your process, and it's not promising
Yeah.
the price, promising the process, the
Correct.
systems, the way you get there, the way you present things, continuous
Correct.
improvement, so that you can get the best result. It's not the result that you're after, it's the processes that will get you there. And it's the
Exactly.
same with the auction. The auction is a tried and true method. It's the same methodology,
Mm,
very, very, very well thought out playbook that will get you the best result. And as long as your agent and your auctioneer is executing that strategy perfectly, whatever,
exactly.
we're not promising you a price. We're promising you the process that will get you the price.
Exactly. Exactly. One last question. It's a tough one for you.
Love tough ones.
Would you sell your home in the current market with auction or private sale?
Oh, this is a good one, isn't it? And it really, really, it depends. I think it depends. And so I think the main thing, look, it's always going to be auction. It's always going to be auction at the end of the day. But it depends on your situation, why you're selling. And Jazz, you would see this. People sell for a variety of different reasons. So think about why you're selling. But look, at the end of the day, it's always going to be tended towards an auction,
Mm,
because at the end of the day, there's a very common misconception that auctions are high risk. It's
mm,
quite the opposite. It's very low risk, but you have to be realistic. You have to be prepared, right?
yeah,
Because it's your best chance of getting the best price. But the thing is if the auction doesn't work, so you've tried your method on auction day, you know this better than I do. You don't have to sell.
exactly. It seems like private sale. I say one thing to the vendors. If you think private sale is best, your property's in the market 4 weeks. Each week you have buyers coming in and you're not getting offers. You're passing in every week.
That's
But you
it.
can't feel it because
So what's the difference?
psychologically, it's still psychologically. When there's a time deadline, we psychologically start thinking. Say, for an example, if I say, Ian, it's 10:48 a.m. at the moment, you got 2 minutes and I've got three questions. You would be able to answer everything in 2 minutes. And versus I say nothing and ask you three questions, we might be able to talk for another 1 hour.
That's
It's the
right.
logical factor that comes in
That's it.
being a
And
private seller auction.
And that's the thing with auction, is that it's so flexible. If you list for private sale, if you list for private sale, you can only sell, through that one method. Whereas auctions, you can sell prior, where you've used
Hmm.
the deadline and the amount of interest that you've got in the first couple of weeks to
Yeah.
get the best offer. And you look at that as a seller and you go, you know what? I'm going to take that, right? You can sell on auction day, where you set the reserve at a competitive price and you get everything that the marketplace has to offer.
Hmm.
And you can pass in afterwards and sell.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It has to be auction, where Melbourne and Sydney are the only two places in the world that use auctions to sell real estate. It's a very powerful tool. Use
Exactly.
it.
And it's been working from hundreds of years.
That's right. We're very lucky here because we've got a marketplace that's conditioned to buying through the auction process,
Mm,
and it is incredibly powerful to get very good results for sellers. And
exactly.
again, it's not about getting the price that you want. You've got a very low risk process. It's very safe. You can sell in a number of different
Mhm.
ways, and it also opens up your agent to use much more tools to
Correct.
get you that end offer.
Exactly. And I think one thing I would like to add to that is with the auctions purchases, do your due diligence. It's critical. Beforehand, be prepared. Come up with, again, if the vendor, if we suggest a vendor to have 3 reserves for purchases, have 3 best prices in mind as well.
That's right.
Rather than just coming up with a cap in your mind that this is the highest cap, be prepared if you have to pay another 20 grand, another 30 grand, another 50 grand, if the house is right for you, because in the long scheme of things, the things would add up anyways if the property is right for you. And especially with the buyers sometimes in the western suburbs, you have to understand if there's a price bracket advertised there, be prepared the property may go higher. So do your research as to what similar properties have sold in the last 3 to 6 months.
That's
That's very
right.
critical.
Or come to your open homes with a very good offer,
Yeah,
and you might convince the sellers to sell before the auction day. You
yeah,
relieve yourself of all that stress, um,
exactly.
and you never know.
100%. Or definitely, I would recommend or have a buyer's advocate with you. If you're not sure how to negotiate or if you like the property and you really want it, I've seen the culture of buyer's advocates in our suburbs is increasing by a lot, and which
Mm,
actually helps them to secure the right property for them, and they don't miss out.
that's right.
Beautiful. Thank you so
That's
much, guys. And thank you, Ian, for joining. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening and watching. Any questions, please let us know. I will put Ian's YouTube channel link in the comment section as well on Facebook and YouTube. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, guys.
perfect. Thank you so much for having me, Jazz. Thank you everybody else for tuning in, and hopefully you'll have me back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thanks everybody. Have a good day.